Hi everyone, so we're going to be seeing how we can make more complex data with an array within an array, and how we can use dot map method to loop through it and display it. And we're going to make it in more of a carousel type format, so it just kind of keeps looping through the questions, so nothing will result in the end, but we're going to see how we can at least create that rotation effect. We're going to create a new Flutter project. So I'll go to my desktop and then Flutter, create complex data 1. And then I'll drag it over here. And what I'll do in the terminal, I will go and actually I'll go to my lib and then main.dart, and this is where I'm going to do a lot of cleanup for that main file. I will get rid of all the comments, and I'll get rid of this home page here. So I just want really simple basic setup, and I know I'm going to call the page later questions screen, so that's what I'll call right there for now, and I'll come back to this a little bit later. For now, I'm just going to make another file in the libs called questions_screen.dart, and then I'll make a new folder, and it'll be called models, and then another new folder, it'll be called data, and in the data I'll make questions.dart, and in the model I will make a quiz_questions.dart. And in the question screen, I will set this one up. So this will be a stateful widget. So this is, we're going to have something changing on the screen. So we need to make it stateful. And what I'm going to do is I'll make class question screen extends stateful widget, and it'll have a create. I'm going to do it again. It'll be create state, and I have to set this up with a const here. And you'll have a super.key to connect the question screen to the stateful widget. And I'm going to return the questions screen state. And what this will have is, because we're doing stateful widget now, we have to have two classes in here. So class underscore question screen state, and this will extends state, which is the question screen. And I also need to change this, not stateful widget, it should be question screen, because this should match, the question screen here should match whatever the class is. So we create the state for it, and now here in this class, the second class below, this is where we're going to actually set up everything. I'm going to make my build, and I'm going to do a return here, and I'll just call it scaffold right now. And I will come back to this shortly. For now, I just want to set up this template, which is perfect. And in my main.dart, I can then import this page, which is so we're calling the complex data 1, and then we're going to call the question screen. There we go. So now it can look for that question screen class, which is right here in the question screen file. And what I'm going to do is first I'm going to set up my model. So my model is going to consist of text and answers. I'm going to have a class, I'll call it quiz questions. It's just a model, so we're not extending anything. And we'll have const quiz questions, and it'll be this dot text, and then this dot answers. and then final string text, and then final list of some string, and it'll be called answers. So the list will be like another array of information, and each of the items will be a string. And we're going to set up our data here in the data folder, the questions.dart. And this is where it's just going to be constant, and it'll be const questions is equal to some sort of array. And this array, we are calling that quiz questions that we've set up in our quiz questions.dart models. It's going to follow the same format, and the text will say, let's put on its own line here. It'll say, let's say, how are you? And then the next one, this is where we can have another array, and we can have a bunch of different answers. We'll say, good, okay, bad, something like that. And then make sure I put those semicolons and commas at the end where needed. But I'm going to have like 2 more questions here, so it's a little bit more organized. And I'll say, where do you live? And we'll say Canada, USA, Australia. And another question, I'll say, what is your favorite color? And I'll say red, orange, yellow. So now we have a bunch of options to select from for each of the questions. And now what I'm going to be doing is, now that I have the data set up and this quiz questions, so for this models, we also need to import, actually that's all we need to do. That's good. Models is good. Main, we're going to go back to our question screen here, and in the question screen, this is where I'm just going to set up a bunch of the logic. So what I want to be able to do is I want to be able to go through each of this data. It's an array within an array, so we have to know how to grab the information. So we're in our question screen in the scaffold. I'll first make the app bar, and I'll have an app bar of some sort of background color, and it'll be colors.blue, and then it'll also be title of const text questions in the app bar, and I'll just have a style to make it like a white text. And aside from the app bar, we need the body. And in the body, we will have a center, and we're going to have a child. The child has, we're going to put in a column, so it's above one another. And then here now, in the column, so for this column we're going to center it, so it'll be main axis alignment and then main axis alignment dot center. And we want to, in the children now, have the text. So this is where, let's just have, we're going to have to showcase the actual question here. So to do this, before we get started, we are going to actually be setting up 2 things. So in this class underscore question screen data, we're going to be setting up some var current question index, start at position 0. So we're starting at position 0 because in our data, we start, this first one starts at 0, position 0 because it's in an array. So 0, 1, 2. It does have a length of 3, but the max it goes to is 2. And what we're going to be doing, we start at 0. And then what we want to do is inside this build is, well, before we do that, here under this current question index, we're going to be setting up some sort of function. So void answer question, and then we're going to do a set state, because this is going to help with the changes. So if, let's say, if the current question index is greater or equal to the questions.length, because questions is coming from the questions.dart file, it's checking the length of this array, it'll be 3. So if it's equal to 3, it's too long because it only goes up to position 2. But we are going to do the current question index. So whenever it increments, if it gets to 3, right, if it's too big, then what we're going to do is we're going to reset the current question index back to 0. So we can start from the beginning again. And what we're going to do now here is in this build, we'll have the final current question is equal to questions, and the position of the questions is the current question index. So based on whatever index it's at, it will grab the question that it needs, and we're going to actually use this variable current question here now. So current question dot text, so that's where the question is. And then we're going to, we can add a style if we want. Style const text style of font size 24. And then we're also gonna, because we're going through an array of information, so the text is just for this first one, the question right here. But now we have another array right here, so we are going to be using the spread operator, so dot dot dot, and then current question and dot answers. And we're going to, using the dot map method, we're going to grab the answer for each one, and we're going to return, let's say, some sort of elevated button. So each item will be its own button, and now on pressed it will call the function that we set up here. I'm going to make it private, so I'll put underscore answer question. It'll be private. So answer question, it will call it. It'll call this private function that's only in this class, and whenever it's called, it will increment the number. And then here I will put a text for whatever the answer is for that current item, and I'll put the semicolon right there, and that should display all of the data that we need. So let's try running it. Down here I don't have anything connected, so what I'll do so right here I'll go to my simulator and right click devices, iPhone 15 Pro Max, and here we should see it in our drop down, iPhone 15 Pro Max. And if I run it now, I'm going to go run, start debugging. Okay, so now that our application is up and running, you can see here if I just click random items here, that it is just going around in a circle. It's not going to ever end because of our logic. So all we've done here is in this area, we are going through all of the questions, whatever the text is for the title, the question, and then it's going to map through all of these different answers here that we could show, and whenever they press it, they will call this function called answer question, which is right here, and the underscore here is just saying it's private, it's only going to be within this class here, and the set state is what is doing the update for that current question index. So whenever current question index or this function is clicked, it will increment that current question index variable, and if it is greater than or equal to the questions.length, which is the length of the data we have here, if it's greater than or equal to, then we're going to have to start all the way back to 0, which is why we see it go back in a loop. And we can see here that what it's doing is just going to take that question, we're going to display it, but also here we're going to use the dot map method. For each answer, we're just displaying it as a button, and we're able to click it and just display whatever that title is for each of the buttons. And we know that this is able to work now. This app bar here is the background color for the banner up here at the top, and I just applied a title here for this page, which is questions, and here we have some sort of text style. Because I have a darker background, I made the text white. So text style color, I'm just using colors.white in order to make that title questions the white color.